I talked to him about it. I asked him questions about it. I heard his side of the story, which no one has ever heard.
At 62,
Melissa Gilbert spent most of her life being recognized for a character she stopped playing over 40 years ago. To millions of television viewers, she will always be Laura Ingalls, the freckled, spirited girl from Little House on the Prairie who ran through Walnut Grove with her braids flying. But the woman behind that image has spent decades quietly working through a far more complicated story, one involving a hidden family tragedy, a long battle with alcohol, a painful relationship with aging in her own face, a late-discovered neurological condition, and most recently, a devastating legal crisis involving the man she married in 2013. Now in her 60s, Gilbert has become far more open about all of it, and Peace in her own public statements together tells a story that looks nothing like the sunny prairie girl America thought it knew. Gilbert was born in Los Angeles on May 8, 1964, and was placed for adoption almost immediately. She was adopted the following day by actor Paul Gilbert and actress-dancer Barbara Crane, stepping into a family that was already deeply embedded in the entertainment industry. Her mother's father was Harry Crane, a writer credited with creating The Honeymooners. Show business wasn't something Melissa Gilbert grew up near. It was the environment she was born into. That environment reached for her early. She began appearing in commercials as a small child, including a well-remembered Alpo dog food spot, and by the time most children are learning to read, acting in childhood had already become tangled together for her. The defining wound of her early years, though, wasn't the work. It was a secret her family kept from her. For years, she was told her adoptive father had died of a stroke. Later, she learned the truth. He had died by suicide. Gilbert has said the revelation devastated her, arriving as a second, sharper loss layered on top of a grief she thought she had already processed. Her parents had divorced when she was 6, and her mother's remarriage brought a new blended household that looked stable to outsiders but carried its own quiet complications. The cheerful, photogenic child the public saw was only part of the picture. In late 1973, a 9-year-old Gilbert auditioned for the role of Laura Ingalls in a new NBC series based on Laura Ingalls Wilder's novels. Roughly 500 girls are considered. Gilbert got the part. The pilot aired as a television movie in March 1974, and the series proper began that September. Michael Landon, already a star from his years on Bonanza, personally signed off on her casting. He was 37 at the time, and over the next 9 years he became far more than a scene partner, by Gilbert's own later accounts. He functioned as a mentor and a father figure during a period when she badly needed one. From 1974 to 1983, Gilbert appeared in nearly every episode of Little House on the Prairie, growing up on camera between the ages of 9 and 18. Production schedules were demanding, long days on location in Simi Valley, with schooling squeezed into the legal minimum required for child performers in California. Landon gave her the nickname Half Pint, both on screen and off, and it stuck to her public identity for the rest of her career. She has since described the role as both a refuge from a complicated home life and, eventually, a kind of cage. Audiences and even people on set often treated Laura Ingalls as though she were Melissa Gilbert, rather than a character she was playing. By the time the series ended in 1983, with follow-up television movies continuing into 1984, Gilbert was a bona fide teen icon, with a 1981 Golden Globe nomination and multiple Young Artist Awards to her name. But fame didn't resolve the harder questions she carried into adulthood, where the character ended and she began. Through the 1980s, Gilbert moved in circles far removed from Walnut Grove. She dated Rob Lowe, socialized with the so-called Brat Pack, and spent time around figures like Billy Idol. She has since written that this period was less about freedom than about trying to prove, to Hollywood and to herself, that she could be more than the girl in the bonnet. That effort showed up in her choice of roles. In 1979, at 15, she took on the demanding physical and emotional role of Helen Keller in a New York stage production of The Miracle Worker, a striking departure from network family drama. In the years that followed, she deliberately sought out darker material. In 1983's Choices of the Heart, she played a nun based on one of 4 American churchwomen raped and murdered in El Salvador in 1980. In 1987's Blood Vows, she played a mafia wife in a story built around crime and violence. These weren't accidental choices. They were part of a sustained effort to be taken seriously as an adult actress. Even so, escaping Laura Ingalls proved difficult. Two 1990s television series she led as an adult. Fox's Stand By Your Man, 1992 to 93, and NBC's legal drama Sweet Justice, 1994 to 95, in which she played attorney Kate Delaney, were both canceled after limited runs. On paper, these were real opportunities. In practice, audiences still saw Laura first. In June 2009, at 45, Gilbert published a memoir, Prairie that pulled back the curtain on the wholesome image she'd carried since childhood. In it, she wrote candidly about feeling empty despite decades of public affection, and about struggling with addiction, failed relationships, and regret over cosmetic procedures she'd undergone. By her own account, her problems with alcohol didn't begin during her Little House years, but developed later, in her late 30s, following her grandfather's death and a period of significant emotional strain. She has said she began drinking to help herself sleep, and that the habit eventually escalated to as much as 2 bottles of wine a night, alongside misuse of prescription medication. A humiliating low point, passing out while entertaining a friend, pushed her toward therapy and Alcoholics Anonymous, and she has said she reached sobriety around 2004. Financial strain followed some years later. Public tax records cited in 2015 reported roughly $360,000 owed in back federal income taxes, layered on top of an early reported 2013 debt of around $112,000. Writing became one of the ways she worked through this period. Beyond Prairie Tale, she released 2 books in 2014. Daisy and Josephine, a children's story about a shy girl and her dog that echoed some of the loneliness of her own upbringing, and My Prairie Cookbook, which combined recipes with behind-the-scenes memories from the Little House years. Gilbert's public role expanded beyond acting when, in November 2001, she won the presidency of the Screen Actors Guild in a closely contested election against Valerie Harper. She took office during a tense period for the union, which had endured a 6-month strike in 2000 and was navigating ongoing disputes over non-union and overseas production. She was reelected in 2003 and served until 2005, a notable second act for a former child star, requiring political skill far removed from anything her television career had demanded. Gilbert's relationship with her own appearance shifted in stages over decades. Soon after turning 18, she had a rhinoplasty, unsatisfied with the initial healing. She had it redone. That first procedure opened the door to others. Breast implants followed, and by the 2000s she had added Botox, fillers, and other cosmetic treatments in an effort to hold on to the kind of look she felt the industry still expected of her. She has since said that the more she tried to refine her appearance, the less recognizable she felt to herself. That pressure intensified with age. By her 40s, she has said, she felt boxed by an industry culture that reduced a woman's value to a dress size and the visibility of fine lines, even after a lifetime spent working in the business. Her 2011 divorce from actor Bruce Boxleitner only sharpened that pressure. What had been occasional maintenance became a routine cycle of touch-ups. The turning point came after she married actor and director Timothy Busfield in 2013 and left Los Angeles, first for rural Michigan and later for a restored, roughly 14-acre former hunting cabin in the Catskills in upstate New York. Away from the city's pressures, she gradually let the old routines fall away. She stopped coloring her hair and let it go gray, stepped back from Botox and fillers, and in 2015 had her breast implants removed, citing health concerns. In interviews around 2024 and 2025, she became outspoken about the language of the beauty industry itself, saying she disliked the phrase anti-aging because, in her words, it essentially equates aging with death. By the early 2020s, she had built a public identity around this shift. In 2022, she launched Modern Prairie, a lifestyle brand and online community aimed at women over 50, appearing on camera with little or no makeup and speaking openly about menopause and the physical realities of getting older. When she turned 60 in May 2024, she described it as one of the best years of her life and said she had earned every line and scar that came with it. In 2024, at 60, Gilbert learned the name for something that had troubled her since childhood: misophonia, a neurological condition marked by extreme distress in response to specific sounds. She has said she remembers, even as a child on a Little House set, becoming physically overwhelmed by classmates chewing gum or tapping their nails on a desk during classroom scenes, a reaction she spent decades interpreting as a personal character flaw rather than a medical condition. She reached out to Duke University's Center for Misophonia and Emotion Regulation in 2023, where its director, Dr. Zachary Rosenthal, connected her with treatment. She completed 16 weeks of intensive cognitive behavioral therapy aimed at recognizing early physical warning signs before they escalated, and beginning in 2024, she started speaking publicly about the condition to raise awareness and support research funding. Gilbert has also dealt with significant physical health issues over the years. She competed on season 14 of Dancing with the Stars in 2012, partnered with Maxim Shmerkovsky, and suffered fall and head injury during a live performance in April of that year, which doctors diagnosed as a concussion and whiplash on top of pre-existing neck problems. She still finished fifth in the competition. Those neck and back issues had a longer history, including a broken back in 2001 and a spinal fusion in 2010, and by 2019, she was describing ongoing nerve pain, numbness, and sleep disruption. She underwent additional spinal surgery in November 2020 to address deteriorating discs and remove old hardware. In June 2023, what appeared to be an insect bite on her arm developed into a serious cellulitis infection with an abscess, requiring emergency intravenous antibiotics. More recently, in her early 60s, she shared that she was cancer-free, and in December 2025, she partnered with the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network in memory of Michael Landon, who died of pancreatic cancer in 1991 at 54. Gilbert's romantic history has been well documented. She married actor Bo Brinkman in February 1988, 7 weeks after ending her engagement to Rob Lowe, and gave birth to their son, Dakota, in 1989, while dealing with untreated alcoholism and the emotional aftermath of her Little House years. The marriage ended in divorce in 1994 amid infidelity and instability. She married actor Bruce Boxleitner on January 1st, 1995. Their son, Michael, named for Michael Landon, was born later that year. That marriage lasted 16 years before ending in divorce. Finalized in 2011, her relationship with Timothy Busfield began differently. The two met in 2012 in a Los Angeles bar, both coming off long marriages of their own, and moved quickly toward commitment. Busfield proposed by the end of that year, and they married in a small private ceremony at a ranch in Santa Barbara in April 2013, with Gilbert choosing to wear red instead of white. Afterward, the couple deliberately built a quieter life away from Los Angeles, first in Michigan and later at their Catskills cabin, which Gilbert wrote about extensively through books, interviews, and social media focused on gardening, home life, and reinvention later in life. That image of a peaceful second act was appended in January 2026, when Busfield was arrested in New Mexico after two 11-year-old twin brothers, who had worked as child actors on the set of Fox series A Cleaning Lady, accused him of inappropriate sexual contact. He was formally indicted in February 2026 by a Bernalillo County grand jury on 4 counts of criminal sexual contact of a minor, tied to alleged conduct occurring between 2022 and 2024 while he was directing episodes of the show. Busfield pleaded not guilty to all counts and has publicly and repeatedly denied the allegations, calling them lies. His attorney has argued the case is legally weak. He was released from custody pending trial, which is currently scheduled for May 2027. Gilbert has stood by her husband throughout. In her first television interview on the subject, on ABC's Good Morning America in April 2026, she told anchor George Stephanopoulos that she believed Busfield to be incapable of harming a child and that she trusted him completely, while also acknowledging the toll the case had taken, describing it as the most traumatic experience of their lives and saying that, win or lose in court, their life together, as they had known it was effectively over. She has said she remains confident he will be exonerated, while also preparing for other outcomes. The case remains active, and Busfield continues to maintain his innocence as it proceeds toward trial. Gilbert's public story has never followed a single straight line. A hidden family tragedy, a demanding childhood spent in front of millions of viewers, years of trying to outrun a beloved but limiting role, addiction and recovery, an evolving and often painful relationship with her own appearance, a diagnosis that reframed a lifelong struggle, and now a deeply uncertain chapter involving the man she married. through her books, her interviews, and more recently her modern Prairie platform. She has increasingly chosen to speak about these experiences directly rather than let the polished image of half-pint stand in for the whole of her life. Whatever comes next in the case involving her husband, Gilbert has made clear that the version of herself she wants people to see now is not the girl from Walnut Grove, but the woman who lived everything that came after her. This article is based on Melissa Gilbert's own public statements in her memoir and in media interviews, along with reporting from outlets including ABC News/Good Morning America, NBC News, Rolling Stone, Variety, Deadline, and Fox News. Timothy Busfield has pleaded not guilty to all charges against him and denies the allegations. The case is pending trial.